keep doing daily videos on YouTube, I need to raise my Patreon and Subscribe Star income to a grand total of $200 a month. So if you're so inclined, help a chap out. Zang. Hello lovelies. I'm going to take a minute today to talk about my upcoming projects. So the main things on the table for the imminent near future are my Grimdark rules for 5th edition, and to incorporate with that the supplement I'm temporarily calling Wightchester. This setting is early modern, around the mid 1600s. Though you could plug it into a fantasy game, and so the Grimdark rules are also aimed around that sort of area. So we were talking the mid 1600s, in around after the English Civil War. Now this is a really interesting period, and it hasn't actually been touched that much. One of very few game books that touches on it is England Upturned for Lamentations of the Flame Princess, which I wasn't particularly enamoured with or happy about. I might do something on that, but I just didn't feel that it was up to the usual standards of Lamentations of the Flame Princess products. So I might do a review on that next week to talk you through it. One of the main things in the Grimdark rules is to speed up combat primarily through lethality, and to greatly limit and draw back the effects of magic and miracles and so forth. So magicians are more like ritualists who can gain access to certain gifts and minor powers, or access to rituals. Almost all magic will be performed via a ritual, whether it be prayer and fasting, or sprinkling holy water, saying the right words, making a sacrifice, spending a lot of time invoking names of God over demons, you know, all of that sort of thing. So a sorcerer and magician, the archetype for that in the game is much more of a Western ceremonial magic tradition, the Goetia, all of those sorts of things. Faith will be more nebulous. There will not be any sort of direct evidence that a god exists, but faith will exist as a form of magic, as will turning to the dark side, the dark powers, or cleaving to the old ways. So there will be several paths to sort of folk magic, ceremonial magic, and to capacity to have access to miracles and so on, but they won't be as powerful. To compensate for that, heroic characters will have a thing called morale, which will be a pool of points that you can spend to boost your actions. It's basically what sets heroes apart from regular plebs and makes the characters better able to survive and succeed in a way that they wouldn't necessarily otherwise be able to with the increased lethality and so on. So combat is likely to be a lot more quick, a lot more bloody, a lot more deadly. Access to healing is far less common, far less available, and there'll be options for things like permanent injuries and so on like that. Now the setting that I'm creating this in mind for is this mid-1600s UK setting, in the early modern period, so that there's firearms, shields are falling out of fashion, armour is on its way out, you know, all of these kinds of things. And it'll be set within a walled city, loosely based on several cathedral cities not that far from me, Winchester, Salisbury, Canterbury. Those will all be influencing it. I'll be drawing on a lot of lore and folklore and history around all of these cities and sites and things that happened there, and adding my own. But the idea is that a comet recently made its way across the sky, as it did, I believe, in 1666, which is appropriately enough the year of the beast, or the Annus Horribilis, or was it Annus Mirabilis? I always forget. Anyway, I think Annus Horribilis was our current queen. And this had the effect of raising the dead, at least within this city, as bloodthirsty ghouls, and various other effects as well. The city was walled off, so its walls were turned in on itself. Soldiers were stationed around it, and very few people escaped. And how to deal with it hasn't really... a way to deal with it hasn't really manifested. So it's become a prison. It's full of bloodthirsty ghouls and other weirdness and monstrosities, and what they do is they just shove prisoners into it in the hopes that they might discover something or thin out the dead. And your characters will be people who have been sentenced, rightfully or wrongfully, for some crime or another, and shoved into this city, and that's the campaign hook for that, at least. When I first came up with this idea, as happens regularly, there's always something in the zeitgeist. I seem to pick up on it, but not as rapidly as other people do. But when I was coming up with this idea, including the time period and the focus and the horror and everything, Defoe 666 came out in 2000 AD and kind of stole my thunder. But I figure enough time has passed and that series has wandered absurdly far from its original grounded roots that now is the time where it's acceptable to come back and do this, even though many of the same ideas appear in both. So that's what you can look forward to. Grimdark rules will probably be out first. I don't know how long it'll be. I would ideally like some playtesters, people just to run off a few characters and do a few mock combats for me. So if you're up for doing that, let me know in the comments, or email me, or contact me on social media. The Wightchester, still not sure whether I'm going to stick with that name. That's still some way off. I'm getting a bunch of art done for both books already. I'm writing it, but I'm writing it in an unnecessarily excruciating and detailed way, because of what I'm doing is I'm building up the city from its historical made-up roots to a bustling metropolis, and then applying a zombie apocalypse to it in the medieval period. So I'm still creating the city at the moment. I haven't got as far as knocking it down again yet, so that'll be some way off, and I will be doing crowdfunding to get final pieces of art, editing, polish, see what sort of level of production values we can get into it at that point, but that's some ways off as of yet. If you've got questions about the project or about the Grimdark rules or anything else you want to hear about, let me know. I am also, worth mentioning, only about $16 off reaching my $200 a month goal on my combined Patreon and Subscribestar. If I do hit that goal, then more exclusive content for people who subscribe will start being turned out, probably starting with my videos that I've been making about how to get into the RPG industry, how to, writing, production, editing, all of those kind of things, how to do it on a budget and do it well. If you believe that I'm someone who does it well. So there you go. Hit me up with the questions. Give me your money. Buy my shit. Zang.
Do you like t-shirts?
Yeah, boy!
Do you like games?
Certainly.
Are you perhaps a little bit kinky?
Yes, quite.
Then buy one of our B&D t-shirts at Teespring. Teespring.com/stores/postmortem-studios. You want to be cool, don't you?
Does the word duh mean anything to you?